Gasoline fumes got me feeling light. Inhale the poison, I'm taking flight. Head spinning fast, world starts to blur. Chasing that high, it's a twisted cure. Life's a wreck, but the fumes bring me peace.
Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something it's a little bit heavy: gasoline sniffing.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people, they might think, oh, is that still a thing? But it is, and you know, it's something that that can be really tough to talk about.
It is, and it's something that it's a serious issue, you know, especially for vulnerable communities,
Right.
Particularly young folks who are facing poverty, isolation, you know, lack of opportunity.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a window into you know, how tough things can be for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the health risks, it's really alarming. I mean, the damage, you know, from chronic gasoline sniffing, it can be as bad as like long-term alcohol abuse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it really affects the brain, the liver, the kidneys.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it in perspective, because I think, you know, when you think of inhalants, you might picture something, I don't know, a little less.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's not going to be good for you. But, you know, the damage potential is really high.
Yeah.
And one of the scariest parts of this is something called sudden sniffing death syndrome.
Whoa. That sounds terrifying. What is that?
So basically, the chemicals in gasoline, they mess with the heart's electrical signals.
Okay.
And it can cause sudden cardiac arrest.
Oh, my gosh.
And it can happen just like that, even after just one sniff.
Wow.
So, you know, imagine a kid, you know, experimenting with friends. They have no idea about this risk.
Yeah, that's just awful.
It is. It's a tragedy.
And it makes you realize how important, like, education is.
Exactly.
Awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. And the tragedy goes beyond just the individual. Think about the families.
Right.
The communities.
Right. Ripple effect.
The emotional toll. The strain that it puts on, you know, healthcare systems, social systems.
Right. It's like a vicious cycle almost. It's like poverty, lack of opportunity lead to people wanting to kind of escape through this, and then that further burdens.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a huge burden. And then you add on top of that the stigma.
Right.
Right. Imagine a teenager, right, wants to talk to a school counselor because they're worried about a friend.
Yeah.
Who's sniffing gasoline, but they're afraid to say anything. They don't want to be judged, right?
Yeah.
They think, oh, they're going to think I'm a bad influence or whatever. And that silence, you know, it just makes the problem worse.
It does. It's like a hidden epidemic. You know, it's hard to even address it sometimes because of that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But there are some, you know, glimmers of hope.
Okay.
Communities are fighting back. They're implementing programs, initiatives to try to prevent inhalant abuse, especially with young people.
Okay, so what are some of the strategies? Like, what are some of the things that seem to be working?
Well, one really promising approach is just creating safe, engaging spaces for young people to be.
Okay.
So giving them alternatives to boredom, you know, and despair. So, you know, think like sports programs.
Okay, yeah.
Art initiatives, mentoring, things that, you know, nurture a sense of belonging and purpose.
So it's like, it's not just saying, don't do this. It's like giving them something else.
Right.
To be a part of.
Exactly. It's about positive alternatives and education.
Okay.
You know, and not just lecturing about the dangers, but really tailoring the message to resonate with young people.
Right.
So using peer-to-peer education, interactive workshops, you know, really getting to the root of the problem.
So it's not just a just say no campaign.
Right.
It's about empowering them to make choices.
Exactly.
Okay, so instead of like a top-down approach, it's like, hey, we're going to meet you where you're at.
Exactly.
And help you understand this.
That's right. And it's not just about the young people. You know, we need to equip the families.
Yeah.
The educators, the community leaders, right?
Right.
Give them the knowledge, the resources to recognize the signs.
Right.
And intervene effectively.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a multifaceted approach, right?
Absolutely.
It's hitting it from all these different angles. But like, are these programs working? Like, can you give me an example of one that's actually making a difference?
Yeah. I remember reading about this community in Australia, and they implemented this really comprehensive program that combined youth outreach. They did educational workshops for parents. They increased access to mental health services. And within 2 years, they saw a pretty significant decrease in gasoline sniffing incidents.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And just a noticeable improvement in the community's overall well-being.
That's really encouraging to hear.
It is.
That it's possible.
Yeah.
To make a change.
It is. It shows that with a targeted effort, a collaborative effort, positive change can happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these success stories, they really highlight the importance of investing in prevention.
Right.
And early intervention.
Right. Yeah. Getting ahead of it.
Yeah.
So what about like the role of like health agencies and in these larger organizations? Like how are they playing into this?
They play a really critical role in supporting these community-led initiatives. So, they provide funding, resources, training, expertise.
Right.
And they help to scale up successful programs. They advocate for policy changes that address the underlying social and economic factors that are driving this.
So it sounds like it's really a partnership.
It is.
Everybody working together.
It has to be.
Towards the same goal.
Yeah, no one organization, no one individual can solve this alone.
Right.
It requires this collective commitment to create a world where, young people have the opportunities, the support they need to thrive.
Yeah. And that's such a powerful message. So for somebody listening to this who maybe wants to get involved, what would you say is like a good first step?
Well, I think the most important thing is just to stay informed.
Okay.
Stay engaged. Learn about the resources that are available in your community.
Right.
Support those organizations that are working to prevent substance abuse and advocate for policies that promote equity and opportunity.
That's great. It really highlights, I think, how important community engagement is.
Yeah.
How even small actions
absolutely
can contribute to something much bigger.
It's true. Sometimes it feels like tackling these deeply rooted issues. It's just, monumental effort.
Right.
But change often starts at the grassroots level.
And, as we're diving deeper into this, it makes you wonder. Yeah. We've talked about gasoline sniffing in marginalized communities, but are there instances of this happening elsewhere?
That's a really good question. And while it's definitely more prevalent, in areas facing socioeconomic challenges, inhalant abuse, it can occur anywhere.
Oh, wow.
You might be surprised to learn that it's also been reported among affluent youth.
Really?
Yeah. Often as a form of experimentation or risk-taking behavior.
That's interesting. So it's not just like a poverty issue. It's like, it could be.
Right.
Adolescent.
Yeah.
Curiosity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The pressures of fitting in.
Yeah.
Regardless of your socioeconomic background.
That's a really good point. So it really underscores the importance of just, open communication, education.
Exactly.
Across all communities, like parents, educators, healthcare providers, they need to be aware of this, regardless of, their perception of the community they serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like, it's a reminder that this can affect anyone. We shouldn't make assumptions based on demographics or
stereotypes.
And it brings us back to the crucial role of prevention and early intervention.
Right.
Imagine a school that implements a program and it teaches students about the dangers of inhalants in a way that's engaging, that's relevant to their lives. Right. Not just a dry lecture.
Right, yeah. Engaging them on their level, addressing their curiosity, their concerns.
Exactly.
It's probably a lot more effective than just don't do this.
Exactly. It's about, fostering critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
Helping young people make informed decisions about their health and their well-being.
We've talked a lot about the negative consequences, the devastating consequences. But are there stories of recovery? Yeah. Like, can people break free from this addiction?
Absolutely. And these stories of resilience are incredibly inspiring. I remember reading about this young woman who had struggled with gasoline addiction for years. And through a combination of community support, therapy, her own determination, she was able to turn her life around. And she went on to become a substance abuse counselor.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, helping others navigate.
Wow.
That same path to recovery.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Just, it shows that even in the face of adversity, recovery is possible with the right support and the willingness to change.
And it emphasizes the importance of never giving up hope. There are resources out there. There are people who care, and there are pathways to healing.
As we're discussing this, I'm realizing how much this overlaps with mental health.
Right.
You know, the desperation, the searching for an escape.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder, you know, if addressing these underlying mental health challenges could play a bigger role in prevention.
You've hit on a crucial point.
Yeah.
Inhalant abuse is often a coping mechanism for underlying trauma, depression, anxiety, other mental health issues.
Right.
And by providing access to mental health services and creating that culture of support, we can address those root causes.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Right.
You know, trying to understand all the different factors at play.
Precisely. And it's a reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
You know, it requires that holistic approach, addressing the individual, their environment, the systemic issues that are perpetuating these cycles of despair.
So we've talked about, you know, the community programs, education, mental health support, the role of larger organizations. But what about the individual? Like, what can someone who's struggling with gasoline sniffing do to get help?
That's such a vital question. And first and foremost, it's crucial to acknowledge that seeking help, that's a sign of strength, not weakness. Okay. And there are many resources available. You know, there are hotlines, support groups, treatment centers, specifically designed to help people overcome this.
So even if they feel ashamed or afraid, there's people who are, you know, ready and willing to help them through this.
Absolutely. And sometimes just confiding in someone you trust, a friend, a family member, a mentor, that can be the first step towards recovery.
Yeah, having someone who just listens without judgment offers that support can make a world of difference.
It's essential. And it brings us back to the importance of breaking down the stigma. The more we talk openly and honestly about these issues, the more we create that safe space for people to come forward. And seek help.
You know, it makes me think about the role of empathy. How can we as individuals, you know, cultivate more empathy, more understanding towards those who are struggling with this, or any form of addiction, really?
That's a profound question. And I think it starts with recognizing that everyone has a story. Right? Everyone has this unique set of circumstances that have shaped their choices, their behaviors. And so instead of judging, instead of labeling, we can try to understand the underlying pain, the unmet needs, the desperation that might be driving someone to these extremes.
Yeah, it's about seeing the person behind the addiction.
Exactly.
Remembering their humanity. Acknowledging their worth.
And it's about challenging our own biases, our own assumptions. We all have, you know, preconceived notions about addiction, often influenced by what we see in the media, you know, societal narratives. But, you know, taking the time to educate ourselves, to listen to personal stories, to engage in open dialogue, that can help us move beyond these stereotypes and cultivate a more compassionate perspective.
And that shift in perspective can have a ripple effect. You know, creating
a
more supportive and understanding environment for those struggling to seek help and to find healing.
It's true. Empathy is contagious. When we show compassion, when we show understanding, it can inspire others to do the same. And it creates this chain reaction of kindness and support.
This has been really fascinating and insightful. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. You know, we've gone from what might have seemed like a straightforward topic to really exploring this intricate web of social, economic, personal factors that contribute to this.
And I hope, you know, our listeners is walking away with a deeper understanding of this complex issue, the challenges, the glimmers of hope, and maybe even a sense of empowerment to make a difference in their own community.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did a good job of kind of, you know, exploring the devastating consequences, the promising approaches to prevention and treatment, and the importance of, you know, addressing the root causes while also empowering individuals to make positive choices.
And it all comes back to empathy, understanding, and a collective commitment to creating a world where every young person has the opportunity to reach their full potential, free from the grip of addiction.
That's a powerful message to end on.
It is.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a journey, you know, of discovery and reflection. And we hope it's sparked some new thoughts and insights for you, our listener. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep making a difference.
Yeah. It really is amazing how these little things can add up to something bigger, make a real difference.
Yeah, it's true. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, when you're dealing with these kind of deep-rooted issues, but it all starts somewhere, right?
And it makes you think about the bigger picture too. We've been talking about, gasoline sniffing in these marginalized communities, but does it happen anywhere else? That's a great question. And while it's definitely, more common in areas that are struggling, socioeconomically, inhalant abuse can happen, it can happen anywhere.
Wow.
You might be surprised to hear that it's even been reported, among like affluent youth.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of times, it's a form of experimentation or risk taking.
So it's not always tied to like just poverty.
Right.
It's
more than that.
Yeah, it's that.
It's more than that, yeah.
Adolescent curiosity.
Absolutely.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, fitting in, peer pressure, all those things, regardless of your background. So it really just drives home, I think, how important it is to, have those open conversations.
Yes.
Education.
Yes, communication is key.
Across the board. I mean, parents, educators, healthcare providers, everybody needs to be aware of this. You can't just, look at a community and think, oh, well, this wouldn't happen here.
You can't make assumptions, no. Yeah, you really can't.
It's a reminder that it can affect anyone, really.
And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That prevention and early intervention are so key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about, meeting those young people where they're at.
Yeah.
Having those conversations in a way that's engaging, that's relevant to their lives.
Right.
Not just lecturing at them.
Right. Engaging them on their level.
Yeah.
Addressing their curiosity and concerns. I think it's way more effective than just, telling them, no, don't do this.
Absolutely. You got to meet them where they're at, and you got to give them the tools to make those informed decisions.
Well, we've talked a lot about the really serious, the devastating consequences of this. But are there stories of recovery? Like, can people break free from this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are some really inspiring stories out there. I was reading about this young woman. She had struggled with gasoline addiction for years. And she went through, community support, therapy, her own determination. She was able to turn things around.
Yeah.
And she ended up becoming a substance abuse counselor.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, helping other people who are going through the same thing.
That's incredible. It shows that even, after years of struggling with this, recovery is possible.
It is.
With the right support and the willingness to change.
It's powerful. And I think it highlights that there's always hope. There are always resources, people who care, and ways to find healing, even when it feels like, there's no way out.
This is making me think about how much this overlaps with mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
The desperation.
It's all connected.
The searching for escape.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if addressing those underlying mental health issues could play a bigger part in preventing this.
You're right. Inhalant abuse, it's often a way of coping with underlying issues, trauma, depression, anxiety, you name it. And if we can provide access to mental health services, create a supportive environment,
right.
We can get to those root causes and help people find healthier ways to deal with their struggles.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. Trying to understand all the different factors at play.
Exactly, yeah. It's complex. There's no easy answer. And it requires a more holistic approach.
Right.
One that addresses the individual, the environment, those systemic issues that keep these cycles going.
So we've talked about, the community programs, education, mental health support, the role of those larger organizations. But what about the individual themselves? What can someone who's struggling with gasoline sniffing do to get help?
Yeah, that's the most important question, I think, first of all. It's important to realize that seeking help, that's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of strength.
Right.
And there are so many resources out there, hotlines, support groups, treatment centers, designed specifically for this.
So even if they feel ashamed or scared, there are people who are ready to help.
Absolutely, yeah. And sometimes just talking to someone you trust, a friend, a family member, a mentor, that can be the first step.
Just having somebody who will listen.
Yeah.
Without judgment.
Exactly. Just listen and offer support. That can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and that human connection.
It's vital.
Knowing that you're not alone, that's gotta be.
It's everything. And it reminds us how important it is to break down that stigma. The more we talk about it openly and honestly, the more we create a space where people feel safe to come forward and ask for help.
It makes me think about the role of empathy. How can we as individuals cultivate more empathy and understanding for those who are struggling with this, or any form of addiction?
That's such a good question. And I think it begins with remembering that everybody has a story. They have their own unique set of experiences that have shaped them and their choices. And so instead of judging, instead of labeling, we can try to understand the pain, the unmet needs, the desperation that might be driving them.
It's about seeing the person.
Exactly.
Beyond the addiction, remembering that they're human, that they have value.
And it's about, challenging our own preconceived notions about addiction, right? We all have biases. We all have assumptions that we've picked up from, media, from society.
Yeah.
But if we take the time to educate ourselves, to listen to those personal stories, to really engage in a dialogue, then we can start to move past those stereotypes and cultivate more compassion.
And that shift in perspective, I think, can really make a difference in creating a more supportive, more understanding environment. We feel safe to reach out.
It really can. Empathy can be contagious.
Yeah.
And when we show compassion, understanding, it inspires others to do the same.
And it creates this ripple effect of kindness and support.
Exactly, yeah.
This has been a fascinating conversation. We've really covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From starting with talking about the consequences of gasoline sniffing to really exploring this web of social, economic, and personal factors that are all tied into this.
It's complex, for sure. And I hope that our listeners are walking away with a better understanding of this issue, the challenges, but also the hope, and maybe even feeling empowered to make a difference in their own communities.
Yeah, I think we've done a good job of exploring the really devastating consequences, but also the promising approaches that are out there, the ways to prevent this, the ways to treat it, and the importance of addressing the root causes, but also giving individuals the power to make those positive choices.
Yeah, and it all comes back to empathy and understanding and working together to create a world where, every young person has the chance to reach their full potential, free from the grip of addiction. Yeah, it really shows that even in the toughest situations, there's always hope for healing.
This deep dive has really kind of opened my eyes to how complex this whole issue is. It's not a simple problem with a simple solution. It really reflects some bigger societal issues.
It really does. And it makes you wonder, what if we stopped focusing on just the symptoms, and really got to those root causes?
What do you mean?
Well, we've talked about the lack of opportunity, the poverty, the isolation that kind of drives people to these desperate measures. What if we put more effort into creating communities that are more equitable, and where people have access to education, job training, mental health services, safe places to spend their time, to have fun.
So instead of just reacting to the problem, we're trying to prevent it in the first place.
Exactly, yeah. It's a long-term solution, but it could make a huge difference for these communities.
It's like we've been putting Band-Aids on a wound that needs stitches.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And those stitches, they involve dealing with things like poverty, inequality, and that lack of access to resources that we keep talking about.
And we've touched on this a little bit, but I think it's worth, saying it again. The importance of personal responsibility. Even when people are facing really tough circumstances, they still have choices to make.
Absolutely. We can't ignore the social and economic factors, but we also have to empower individuals to take responsibility for their actions, to seek help when they need it.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Right. Recognizing that these outside forces have an influence, but also recognizing that people have the power to make choices that can shape their lives.
Yeah, finding that middle ground, recognizing the complexity, but not taking away that individual accountability.
And that brings us back to hope, I think, Even when things are tough, there's always the possibility of change, of recovery, of things getting better.
And that hope is what drives so many amazing people, so many organizations all over the world working to prevent inhalant abuse, supporting those who are struggling, creating a world where every young person has a chance to thrive.
It really is inspiring to think about all the people who are out there making a difference every day. It reminds us that we can all do something, No matter how small it might seem, we can all contribute to making the world a better place.
It's true, yeah. Even a small act of kindness, lending an ear, a word of encouragement, it can have a huge impact on someone's life.
Well, I think we've really covered a lot today. We started with this, seemingly straightforward topic, and we've really gone deep into all these different social, economic, personal factors that all play a role in gasoline sniffing.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting conversation, and I hope our listeners are walking away with a deeper understanding of just how complicated this issue is, the challenges, but also the hope, and maybe even feeling inspired to make a difference in their own communities.
Yeah, and I think we've done a good job of looking at the really devastating consequences, but also, exploring those promising approaches that are out there.
Yeah.
The prevention, the treatment, the importance of addressing those root causes.
Yeah.
But also empowering individuals to make good choices.
Yeah, and it all comes back to empathy, understanding, and a collective effort to create a world where young people have the opportunity to reach their full potential, free from the grip of addiction.
Well said.
Yeah.
That's a powerful message to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been quite a journey. A lot of discovery, a lot of reflection. And we hope it sparks some new thoughts, some new insights for you, our listener. So until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep making a difference.
Can't escape the grip, it's holding me tight. Gasoline dreams in the dead of night. Sniffing gasoline, drowning in the haze. Lost in the fumes, I'm caught in the daze. Can't find my way, I'm too far gone. But the gasoline keeps calling me on. None left to lose, no place to go. Just me and a few, the toxic flow. No still can breathe in deep. Gasoline whispers that puts me asleep. Life's burning out like a candle wick, but the high's too strong, I need my fix.